Thank you so much, Muskan. So today we are here to get a deep insight on the topic entrepreneurship as a career path. And to tell us more about it, we have with us Mr. Nikhil Kulkarni sir. Sir is the co-founder of Darwin Travel Tech, an innovative travel technology company. Darwin operates tripdarwin.com, which is a holiday-focused travel portal which helps travelers create and book their own custom holiday trips. Sir did his BTech in electronics and MBA from National Institute of Industrial Engineering. He is a techie at heart, having pursued the whole gamut of IT strategy to project management, architecture, and emerging technology consulting in his 11 years in KPMG. Being more of DIY traveler and encountering different types of travel planning problems himself, Sir quit KPMG as an associate director to co-found Darwin and leads the technology to end of things and is out there to pursue his ambition to create a global technology driven business out of India. On the behalf of Startup Club, I would like to welcome you, sir, and request you to continue with today's session. Please, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ananya. Um, so glad to be here. Um, it's been almost 17 years since I walked out of the campus, and it's been a long journey. I mean, when I look back, um, sometimes when you're just sitting, you think that. अभी तो कॉलेज में थे कुछ साल पहले but that कुछ साल has become 17 years. You only realize when you are in a forum like this, where you get to see faces that are as young as I saw some of these coordinators, and I see that I've grown old. And I also got a WhatsApp message from SP Shukla sir, who was there when I was around, and I was really surprised. I'm sorry I haven't. If sir is here, I haven't responded back to him. I'll do that after this session. But yeah, really great to connect back, and to come back and to the institute as such, as a delegate to talk something about my journey. And my intention today is going to be to make this more inspirational for all the students. I mean, this morning I was having some discussions in our. I also did my MBA from NITI, and we have a WhatsApp group of all entrepreneurs from NITI. So we were having a discussion that about 10-15 years back, it was very difficult to start companies in India. Raising finance was a big problem. Getting talent was a big problem. We couldn't compete with the kind of startups that were coming out of the US that time. And I have experience of those times. I'll come to that when I talk about my journey. But today it is much easier. But at the same time, what it also means is that the competition is also high. So students who come out today, it will be easier for them to start businesses, but it will also be difficult for them uh, to sustain, to make them big businesses. And that's possibly where I can help you, is maybe inspire you to start early. And I'll come to that message more when I start. So without taking much of your time, let me share my screen. I have some slides to present, which I will mainly use to sort of as an aid. So I hope my screen is visible now. So the topic for today that I have is, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? What is it? Education? Is it experience? Because a lot of those questions will come from students about what happens if I were to directly start a company out of college, or should I work for some years, and those kind of things. And those were the questions in my head also. And to a certain extent, I think I am well qualified to answer these questions, because BIT के बाद मैंने MBA किया. After MBA, I got immediately recruited into a global consulting firm, and then it took me almost 11 years to start. And of course, that's not the entire journey about me. So um, if I were to look back, uh, I wanted to be an entrepreneur even when I was in BIT. तब भी हम लोग, I remember final year में as an electronic student, मेरा तो कुछ software related or embedded related project था. But I used to help my batchmates in mechanical engineering. They had made this robotic arm, and I used to help them to program it so that हम लोग उस वक्त भी कुछ नई नई चीजें सोचते थे. And today, if you look back, robotic arm is something that is a part of the Mars rover today. जो भी Mars पे जाके fact finding कर रहा है, research कर रहा है. So in that sense, I mean, I always had that thing in me कि I wanted to be an entrepreneur. उसके बाद भी 11 साल जॉब में रहे तो क्यों रहे, there is a big reason behind it, and of course positive reasons, all positive reasons. So my journey was after BIT. I and Shubham Chaudhary, two of us from our batch, were the only two people to crack NITI. We both went into NITI, did our MBA, and then I was very lucky uh, uh, that I immediately after NITI I got recruited into a global consulting firm like KPMG. So जब तक NITI में था तब तक I wanted to go into the IT sector because that's what I thought my passion was. But then it just happened to me that I got selected in a consulting firm, and I think it was a boon. It was a boon for me because consulting gives you a very all-round view. I got to learn so many things about so many industries. I would have done IT consulting in almost every possible major industry. So financial services, retail, travel, even some to certain extent manufacturing. तो सारे industries देखे. All I saw all the sectors. I could understand the complexities of all sectors. Of course, in the limited domain of information technology, but then I think it was broad enough, and that helped me gain a lot of perspective in life. In between, somewhere around 2007-8, I did my first startup attempt. As I said, मैं हमेशा से entrepreneur बनना चाहता था. So I tried that with one of my batchmates at NITI. And it so happened that we launched our product, and in 3 months of launching our product, Lehman Brothers crisis happened, and the entire economy, global economy tanked. Funding sources dried up. So we weren't successful. But I would say again that was a learning. That was a learning because I realized a couple of things that at that time. One is I realized a lot of things that I did wrong in my first attempt of starting up. And if you guys want to read more about it, there is I write a lot nowadays, little less, but I've been writing a lot. My blog is there, nikhilkulkarni.in. You can go there and you can read about it. I will leave some links for you towards the end of this session. So one thing is I learned a lot in my first attempt, and I realized a lot of mistakes that I was doing. The second important part is that I understood that starting up is not just about business, technology. It is also about your own life. जब आपको एक कंपनी चालू करनी है तो आपको आपकी बाकी लाइफ को भी ध्यान में रखना है. So you will have responsibilities, your personal responsibilities, your personal growth. You will have your own circle of people, your friends. They may be entrepreneurs, they may not be entrepreneurs, they may be from different walks of life. वो सारी चीज आपके साथ आएगी when you become an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship is not isolated to the world of business and technology, and it's not just a career decision, it's a life decision. That realization was not in me until I was in college. And in fact, when I was in BIT, जब मैं BIT में था मुझे तो KPMG भी नहीं पता था. I don't know if any of you guys know what KPMG is and who is KPMG and what do they do. So it is only when I came to NITI is that I came to know about KPMG and I researched about them, and I was very fortunate to get into them. So anyways, onward from there. So 2008, we couldn't make it, and then I decided that my next attempt had to be sure. So I prepared myself both from a life perspective as well as from as a professional perspective. I gained a lot of experience in specific areas that I wanted to focus on. And फिर ऐसा होता है कि after you work for 10-11 years, I came to a point where I said, now I'm ready, but I did not necessarily have an idea to work on. And that's where I went back. I went back into, I looked around my network. I met my college friends. I met my school friends. I met my MBA friends. And I also met my ex-colleagues, and I looked at what all different people were doing. And I finally came to a point where I hit upon a co-founder who was an ex-colleague of mine at that point of time. He had an idea, and then we came together, and then we decided to start Darwin with a common theme. So it took me some time to get there, but I think this is a venture I like to do. So by the way, some links are here. I am on Twitter. I am on LinkedIn. If you guys want, anybody wants to talk to me, I am pretty much available on those platforms. You can just ping me there. So just 2 minutes I will spend about Darwin and about what we are trying to do. So if you think about it, um, travel portals today, they were all invented in the 90s or early 2000s. तो एक बहुत ही ट्रेडिशनल सा फील है. आप साइट पे जाते हो, एक सिटी का नाम डालते हो या दो सिटी का नाम डालते हो, फ्लाइट सर्च करते हो. It's a very standard model. If I were to plan a holiday on a travel portal, it takes me 5-6 hours at a minimum, even if I knew everything. If I didn't know everything, if I'm in the research mode, typically it'll take you 12 to 14 hours, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, काफी time लग जाएगा. So what we've done is we've created a travel portal, and guys, please do check it out after the session, tripdarwin.com, which makes it easy to plan your holidays and to book them in real time. सब कुछ जो आपको हॉलिडे के लिए चाहिए, एवरीथिंग इज अवेलेबल इन वन प्लेस. यू फ्यू क्लिक्स यू गेट अ फुल ट्रैवल आइटिनरी. पूरा प्लान बन के आ जाता है, एंड देन यू आर एबल टू क्विकली book that holiday also on our portal. So that's the differentiator we are building, and one of the ambitions for me now is to take this model global, कि हम इसको एक global website बना सके. And thankfully there is a lot of inspiration available in the market today. Like you have Freshdesk, which is an Indian company जिसने globally सब कुछ किया हुआ है, and there's so many other Indian brands that are now global. So we have a lot of inspiration also to pick up on. So anyways, from that, let me move on to that's I think a lot about my introduction about, and now let me take you through some of the things about what is the career path to be an entrepreneur. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you certain pictures. Uh, Guys, keep it interactive. Use the chat box, or if you want, you can unmute yourself and speak up. I'm going to show you a couple of slides where we'll talk about a lot of famous entrepreneurs and what has been their journey. जैसे मैंने आपको मेरी journey बताया, I'm going to talk about their journey. We'll spend about 10 seconds on each slide, not more than that. So be ready. I'm going to take you through the next few slides, and I'm expecting some responses. Please use the chat box or unmute your mics. So who's this person on the screen? Can I have some names? I will take up questions. Okay, let me pause there. Somebody has asked this interesting question. What is KPMG? KPMG is a consulting firm. They do everything from audit to technology consulting. They are a global company. आपने Accenture का नाम definitely सुना होगा because it's an IT company. KPMG is similar, but they are much bigger. So there are four big fours in the world of what is typically the auditing world: KPMG, E&Y, which is Ernst and Young, Deloitte, and PwC. So KPMG is one of those companies which does this. Google and you will know more about them. That's all I can say. Okay, so who is this person that you're seeing on the screen? Jeff Bezos. Great. So Jeff Bezos, let's look at what was he. He was a BS in electrical engineering, which is pretty much the same as जिसको हम BE बोलते हैं इंडिया में या BTech बोलते हैं. So he was a BTech, and then he worked for 10 years in an investment banking company called DE Shaw before he started Amazon.com. And when he started Amazon.com way back, internet was a very small experimental thing. So there was no surety that it would work. So look at the kind of risks he took. Okay, next photograph. Who's this person? Nobody can guess who this is? Very famous Indian entrepreneur. Sachin Bansal. Very good. So he's Sachin Bansal. Sachin Bansal का journey क्या था? Sachin Bansal graduated from IIT Delhi, did his engineering. After that, worked for 1 year with Amazon before he started Flipkart. So only 1 year of experience, but started in a very relevant domain, very related domain. Exactly Amazon का copy बना दिया. But in those times, copy banana bhi itna simple nahi tha. So don't think that it was a small thing to do. Okay, next photograph. Anybody can guess this person? This is a difficult one actually. Okay. The name of this person is Harsh Mariwala, and possibly his surname will give you some idea about who he is. So Harsh Mariwala is the founder of Marico Industries. Marico Industries is one of the biggest FMCG companies, but one of our homegrown FMCG companies. They compete with Hindustan Lever and Procter and Gamble, and they are as big. And I'm telling you, in institutes like NITI, which are known for supply chain management, for example, Marico hires in competition with these global MNC brands like Hindustan Lever and Procter and Gamble and Colgate Palmolive. It is as powerful a brand as these MNCs are. So this guy is a big unsung hero of India. He should be worshipped. He's created a global brand sitting out of India. And his education was merely Bachelor of Commerce. He worked in his family business and then separated from it to create what you know as Marico today. Again, Marico kya hai, ye mat puchna, because if you don't know, please Google. There are so many brands of Marico that you guys must be using on your daily basis. Okay. Any idea who this is? Slightly difficult one, not a very popular face. Peter Thiel, correct. Peter Thiel. So Peter, by the way, he worked for 7 years before founding PayPal. What will be more surprising for you is his education. He is not from the technology industry, even though he's a founder of PayPal. He is a BA from Stanford Law School. So he's a lawyer. As a lawyer, he worked for 4 years as a lawyer. Then he realized that that was not his calling. Without getting a formal education in technology, he branched out into technology, worked in technology sector for some years, and then got and started PayPal with guys like Elon Musk. Okay, who's this? Some of you who are from electronics or computer science background should know about this person. Any ideas? No, he's not Mr. Warren Buffett. Okay, his name is Gordon Moore. इनके नाम पे एक गांव है बहुत बड़ा. That yeah. So Gordon Moore worked for 18 years before founding Intel. So he has a long career before becoming an entrepreneur. Very long career. And on top of it, he's a PhD in chemistry. And after his PhD, he did 3 years of postdoctorate. So he has a long career. Related photograph. Photograph related to Gordon Moore. Any idea who this is? Okay, this is Andy Grove, who was also one of the co-founders of Intel. Worked for 6 years before founding Intel. Again, another PhD in chemistry before founding Intel. This, any ideas who this is? Very few of you may know him. His name is Ben Horowitz. He's actually one of the VCs in one of Silicon Valley's most famous VC firm called Andreessen Horowitz. And he worked for 5 years before founding Netscape. Netscape was one of the first unicorns of the Silicon Valley. One of the first unicorns of Silicon Valley. जब इंटरनेट के बारे में हमें नहीं पता था तब Netscape था. It is such a big thing. He is obviously a BA and MS in computer science. Okay, I'm sure people know this person. Who's this? Narayan Murthy. So Narayan Murthy worked for 12 years before founding Infosys. He's a BE and MTech in electrical engineering. Who's this?
Sir, Bhavin Agrawal.
Bhavish Agrawal actually. IIT Bombay, worked for 2 years with Microsoft and then started Ola Cabs. Who's this?
Vijay Shekhar Sharma.
Vijay Shekhar Sharma. He's a BE But look at his journey. In 1997, while he was in college, he started a website, indiasite.net, which sold for $1 million 2 years later. And then using that money, he started 197 Communications. But look at the journey. I mean, he started 197 Communications in 2000. It was a very small company that time. They struggled for almost 10 years doing what used to be then called VAS content. VAS content मतलब जो अभी आजकल तो होता नहीं है, बट पहले स्क्रीन सेवर्स आते थे फीचर फोन के लिए, उसको VAS content बोलते थे. और ringtones that you used to hear on feature phones, that used to be VAS content. So 197 Communications was a company that used to make this. It took them, he ran that company for 10 years, and it was in 2010 that they started Paytm. And I think all of you know what Paytm is today. I'm sure you know this
Jack Ma.
person.
Jack Ma.
Jack Ma. Again, worked for 10 years before founding Alibaba, but also kept starting companies right from the time he got his BA in English. So again, possibly the least educated out of all the people whom I've shown you, least qualified, But the important thing is he kept starting companies one after the other. Finally, 10 years later, he got to Alibaba. Who's this? इनका एक प्रोडक्ट है जो आप दिन रात यूज करते हो. Any idea? Okay, let me show you the name. Do you know who Jan Koum is?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, he's a WhatsApp founder. He's a founder of WhatsApp. He worked for 12 years before founding WhatsApp. He's a dropout from San Jose State University. But there's another important thing you need to know about Jan Koum. Jan Koum was an immigrant into America. So he had the same struggles that a lot of Indians have. उसको वीजा के लिए नौकरी करना जरूरी था, नौकरी छोड़ देता तो वीजा चला जाता था. Those kind of problems he faced, and in spite of that, he was doing part-timing and he was studying part-time at San Jose University when he developed WhatsApp. So immense amount of struggle, but yeah, I mean, you can look at the kind of outcomes that he has achieved. Who's this person? नाम पता है? कंपनी तो मैंने बता दिया.
राधाकिशन दमानी.
राधाकिशन दमानी. Drop out from Bachelor of Commerce. Bachelor's भी नहीं है. Worked in his family business for some time, moved to the stock market, created some money, and then took all that money and then started DMart. And DMart is a big market today. Who's this?
रितेश अग्रवाल.
Ritesh Agrawal, full dropout. कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ा. कॉलेज ही नहीं गया लड़का. Born in a very small place in Odisha, नाम भी नहीं सुना होगा हमने, right? Sold SIM cards as a teenager. He had to earn his way up. But then he got lucky at some point of time. Peter Thiel noticed him. He got the fellowship and he started Oyo. Who's this? Travis Kalanick. Never worked for anyone, started many companies, but finally he created what we know as Uber today. And then he was fired as the CEO of his own company, and he may never return back to Uber now. The board has passed some resolutions not to get him back. Tragic story, but also very inspiring story. He started so many companies before starting Uber. I'm sure you all know about this person. He is the world's most famous dropout.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. This is what Steve Jobs was when he was fired from his own company. And then 10 years later, his investors call him. He's thinking, he comes back. So in that $1 a year salary, he works and he then creates the iPhone, the iPad, and so many other products. I don't think I need to wait for an answer. Bill Gates.
Brilliant.
Again, successfully founded and led Microsoft. He's a dropout from Harvard, but an extremely illustrious dropout.
Mark Zuckerberg.
I'm sure you know this guy, Mark Zuckerberg. Again, dropout from Harvard. Very similar story to Bill Gates. Also because both of them come from reasonably wealthy families in the US. Their parents were already rich enough कि उनको नौकरी नहीं करनी पड़ती थी. So for them, taking a risk was slightly easier. So after looking at all this, the message that I want to drive down is there really a path to becoming an entrepreneur? कि, you know, that question कि कितने साल का experience होना चाहिए? How many years should I, what kind of qualification should I have? Should I drop out or should I go into something else? You know, what is the answer to all these questions? The answer is neither. Everybody has their own journey. Everybody does their own thing. Okay. So what I want to show you is how does an entrepreneur compare depending on the different times when they start in terms of a career path. So this is a standard career path of anyone. आप कॉलेज से निकलोगे, टिपिकल आपको कुछ सालों में एक जंप मिलेगा और उस जंप के बाद में आप थोड़ा सा प्लेटो डाउन करोगे, वापस एक जंप मिलेगा, वापस. दिस इज टिपिकल salary career path, salary come designation career path for anyone who works in a job, any kind of job. एक टिपिकल लेवल तक आते आते आप सीनियर पोजीशंस में आते हो, मिडिल मैनेजमेंट में, सीनियर मैनेजमेंट में आते हो, and you plateau out. That's the standard career path for anybody who has a, again, I'm talking about most people like you who might be having a professional qualification. People who are achievers, you know, people who go on to become CEOs or country heads of the respective companies where they work for, they are achievers. So they go above and beyond. So somewhere around the 15th and the 20th or the 20th to 30th year, you know, these people, they go much higher than the rest of their crowd. Most other people just plateau out. Some people also plateau out much badly in a corporate job. मतलब एक जगह stuck हो जाते हैं middle management में, तो कभी भी आगे नहीं बढ़ते. So that career path is also there, a typical corporate job where they don't grow. That is also there. Then there is a successful entrepreneur. College से निकलते ही company चालू कर दिया, massive luck as well as very good ability, and ended up as a successful entrepreneur. In 4 to 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, you will find them crossing everybody else in their batch, make millions and billions of dollars. For example, one of my juniors from NITI, I'm aware, he started a company 2 years back in the sector of blockchain, and today he's a dollar billionaire. So, I mean, that's a successful entrepreneur for you. But ऐसे बहुत कम लोग होते हैं, and luck plays a huge role in making these people who they are. The second is a failed entrepreneur. But यहाँ पे एक important caveat है. No education. Because अगर आपके पास education है तो आपकी इतनी बुरी हालत नहीं होने वाली है. If you are educated, you will get a job somewhere. You will somehow figure out things. But yeah, there are failed entrepreneurs who keep struggling all their lives and can never make it high either on the economic side or on the career side. So that's a reality, but I don't think any of you are ever going to be in that position. Now let's come to a late bloomer. Company चालू किया, बहुत साल तक struggle किया, didn't work out. Somewhere at some point of time, late bloomers will reach their success, and if they hit their success, they will be ahead of the corporate achievers. You know, the CEOs से भी आगे होंगे ये लोग. So guys like Vijay Shekhar Sharma, for example, he has a long career path behind him. He took a long time to get to a point where he is. But today he's far better than any CEO, any salaried CEO of any MNC in the country. He's far better than any of them, both economically, in terms of stature, in terms of so many things. Or people like Narayan Murthy. Imagine he worked for 12 years, then started Infosys, and for the first 10 years, Infosys was started in 1981. For the first 10, almost 12 years, कोई बहुत बड़ा तीर नहीं मारा था उन्होंने. Their fortune only changed when India liberalized in 90s. Late bloomers, but then they beat all achievers in and around them. And then there is a mediocre entrepreneur. Mediocre entrepreneur जो कि थोड़ा success हासिल कर लेता है और फिर I'll come to that later, but many times they lose interest in chasing something very big, chasing financial goals, getting funded. वो सब में interest नहीं होता है. And but still, if you look at it, at the end of their career, they are easily able to match the career path of anybody who's been working in a job. So I would say that for any of you who want to become an entrepreneur, this mediocre entrepreneur is the worst case scenario. इससे खराब नहीं होने वाला है. And then sometimes ऐसा भी होता है, people start their own companies and they fail big time, and then they cannot get back into the game ever. Then they take up a job after their first venture or second venture or third venture fails, and then they get back into their corporate path and they do well. And ये चीज जब मैंने इंजीनियरिंग किया तब उतनी सच नहीं थी जितनी आज है. Today in India, industry is open to having entrepreneurs back into the company to get them to help the company grow. In fact, companies are looking for entrepreneurial skills in their employees. So people want ex-entrepreneurs to become employees. वो ex-entrepreneur employee नहीं बनना चाहता, वो एक अलग problem है. But many times companies are looking for such people. So again, अगर आप, if any of you want to start a company right now, don't be afraid of the failure. If you fail, again, at best, you will have this particular angle to take up and to settle back into a corporate job. It won't be a massive failure for you. So now let us look at some of the reasons why some of these things happen. I just want to. So early start can only happen if you are passionate. And entrepreneurship में एक basic requirement passion तो होता ही है. Late start करोगे तो passion late आएगा बस, but passion तो आएगा ही आएगा at some point of time. If you don't have passion, you will never start. Perseverance. Late bloomers, one very important characteristic of late bloomers is perseverance. If you persevere, success नहीं मिल रहा है, next model try करते हैं, फिर उसमें भी success नहीं मिला, next model try करते हैं, कोई दूसरा business try करते हैं. They keep trying multiple models, just like Vijay Shekhar Sharma, just like Jack Ma. They keep trying multiple things, एक के बाद एक, एक के बाद एक, एक के बाद एक. They have a lot of perseverance. They are at the job, and at some point of time, they hit the jackpot. Failed entrepreneur, as I said, or is mainly lack of talent, and I don't think any of you qualify that, primarily because आप लोगों ने इंजीनियरिंग का एग्जाम तो क्रैक कर लिया है ना, इसका मतलब आपको दिमाग तो दिया भगवान ने. तो लैक ऑफ टैलेंट डेफिनेटली नहीं है. यू आर डेफिनेटली बेटर देन दिस. एंड देन एज आई सेड, मीडियोकर एंटरप्रेन्योर, boredom or change of priorities. People's priorities change a lot. I mean, I can tell you, once you become a parent, your priorities change. Your priorities can change because you have aging parents of your own. Your priorities can change because you've seen everything in the entrepreneurial world or in the corporate world, and you are no longer interested in that material success. You become more spiritual in life, or you want to. There are so many entrepreneurs in my circle who are today comfortable in their lifestyle. बहुत comfortable lifestyle है. They have made enough money. Their company is running properly. They are not interested in taking it into $1 billion and $1 trillion kind of a business. They are saying this much is good enough for me, and now I want to enjoy my life. So they go hiking on weekends and they travel internationally. Holidays पे जाते हैं. They do all these things. So their priorities change, but that means that they are having a good time of their lives. I mean, it's one of the best things to do. So even a mediocre entrepreneur, I would not look down upon a mediocre entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship में वो mediocre है, but उसके कुछ reasons हैं. उसके reasons है कि he's happy with where they are. So the choice, they have exercised their choice of what they wanted to be. And I would say successful entrepreneur, late bloomer, all of them enjoy immense amount of freedom. Mediocre entrepreneurs also enjoy immense amount of freedom. In fact, the reason why their priorities have changed is because they are now free. उनके पास इतना freedom है कि they can decide whether they want to take their company to a multi-million-dollar valuation, or whether they don't want to do that and want to continue living their own lives. Freedom is the basic and the most important outcome of becoming an entrepreneur. So with that, Before I take up this question for you guys, quick check. Any questions from any of you? If you want me to answer, you can put them in chat or you can speak up. You can unmute yourself and speak up. No questions. Okay. Let me give you this point. Until now, until the previous slide, we were mostly talking about professional success, comparing with a job, comparing with financial success. But is it all about money and professional success? No, not really. People start businesses for a variety of reasons. So there are different reasons why people start businesses, right? Uh, I will come to that slide later. So one is lifestyle startups. A founder runs the company to do their own thing. You would have seen a lot of these people. These are people who are very creative sometimes. These are people who have a passion. So for example, my co-founder, he had a passion for travel. So he started a travel company. He quit KPMG and just started a travel company out of like without thinking much. Of course, now we are building something different. Now we are building a technology company and all that. But that time he just started. So it was a lifestyle startup. Small businesses, you might have a family business, or you may start a small business. Like there are so many people who run a business of local roadside eating joints, or local food startups, and all those things. Self-employed professional people like CAs, doctors, they don't really always want to do a job. They want to start their own thing. They are self-employed. So the point of a self-employed professional is many people turn self-employed from salaried, doing the same thing that they were doing while taking a salary, mainly because they make much more money independently. When they are self-employed, they make much more money, even though there is a slightly higher degree of risk. But the end outcome is that they make more money. And then the last one is what you guys hear most about in the media. You know, which is the scalable startups of the world. The whole Facebook, Uber, Ola, Paytm, ये जितनी सारी मीडिया रिलेटेड स्टोरीज आप पढ़ते हो या सुनते हो, टीवी में देखते हो, जिनके इंटरव्यू सुनते हो, they only belong to a very small segment of that last scalable startups. And of course, I would say if any of you want to plan to uh, start a company, that should be your objective. Your objective should be to do a scalable startup. That's the ultimate thing to chase. But trust me, there are many people who may not want that. Or trust me, you may start with that goal in mind, but somewhere along the way, as I said, your priorities might change and you may realize that you don't want to get into the headache of building a scalable startup, because बहुत सारे झमेले होते हैं investor को लाने के बाद. There are too many problems. I showed you two case studies of people who were fired from their own companies. Travis Kalanick and um, and Steve Jobs. That is just one of the examples. There are so many other pressures that are there when you get professional investors, when you're building a scalable startup. There are shareholders when you go public. There are so many problems, and you may not want that. But okay, my point is, start with the objective of building a scalable startup and then choose what you want to do. You may want to do any of these. Having said that, एक चीज बस नहीं करना है हमको. We don't have to start up for the wrong reasons. And what are those wrong reasons? आप अपने इंजीनियरिंग से या आपके क्वालिफिकेशन से निकलोगे, you'll get a job, you'll work for 2-3 years. I was very fortunate to be in a consulting company, because every project used to be an adventure, something new to learn, some new industry to learn, or something new to do. So I never got bored. But most of you might end up in sectors where after 2 years you will start feeling a different kind of a boredom. रोज वही ऑफिस जाना है, वही काम है, वही लोग हैं, and that you may get frustrated out of that boredom. Never ever decide to start your own thing because you are bored out of your job, because Entrepreneurship is also boring. There are hundreds of boring things that I have to do as an entrepreneur, whether it is taking care of finances, whether it is taking care of taxes, whether it is compliance. In fact, even things that I used to enjoy can become boring when I do them on a regular basis. For example, I'm a big buff, coding buff. मुझे मजा आता है coding करने में. But I'm telling you, when I'm building a product, painstakingly going and cleaning each and every bug out there is a boring job. But I have to do it because I have passion for my startup. So the point is, if I had quit my company because I got bored of what I was doing, then I would have taken the wrong decision, because then I would have gotten bored of this bug fixing also in my startup. The reason why I did not quit, I can still tell you, I used to love my job at KPMG. I still would not mind going back and doing the same thing. I love doing that. But I quit for a different reason. And somebody has asked the question saying why, what kept you going? And I'll summarize that after I end. The second wrong reason is greed. Many of you, again, as I said, you may hear about these scalable startups, the Paytms of the world, how Vijay Shekhar Sharma today is a billionaire, millionaire, and all that. But the journey to get there is very hard. Don't get swayed by how media paints it in front of you. So don't become greedy. कि अरे यार, entrepreneur बनने में जितना पैसा है उतना job में कभी भी नहीं मिलेगा. Again, wrong reason to quit your job. Very, very wrong reason to quit your job. The next two are related. ये कई बार होता है, प्रमोशन नहीं मिला, सडनली यार जॉब छोड़ देता हूँ, खुद की कंपनी चालू करता हूँ, ये लोग क्या है, इनसे बदला लेके दिखाऊंगा, इनसे बड़ी कंपनी खड़ी करके दिखाऊंगा. रॉन्ग रीजन. इनफैक्ट आई वुड से any kind of a negative reason is a bad reason to start on your own. You should have positive reasons. Positive reasons are अच्छा startup idea है दिमाग में, you want to try it out, you have passion about a particular field, you enjoy being inventing things, creating things, you enjoy being your own boss, you realized you came across a particular gap in the market which you think you can fill, you have an innovative solution to that. All these are good reasons to start a company. What I showed you are some of the bad reasons, so don't do that. Two questions have come up. What is a scalable startup? Scalable startup is a startup where you can get in investor money, you can pump in money, and that money will help that business multiply on its own. Now, not every business is a scalable startup. For example, even a mechanic shop on the roadside is a startup. Even a small cake making boutique bakery is a startup. But it is not scalable. क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है कि आप उसमें फंडिंग डाल दोगे और वो एक बेकरी के 50 बेकरी ऑल ओवर द कंट्री हो जाएंगे. 50 बेकरी ऑल ओवर कंट्री बनाने के लिए, इफ यू वांट टू डू स्केलेबल स्टार्टअप इन द एरिया ऑफ बेकरी फॉर एग्जांपल, तो आपको एक बहुत अलग बिजनेस मॉडल चाहिए. इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट पाथ to create a chain of bakeries that can run all across India. There is a bakery, there are bakery chains, but it's a very different way of thinking. There, you don't start a bakery chain because you enjoy baking. You start a bakery chain, तो उसके thought process अलग होती है, because it's more of a real estate business, it's more retail business than it being a business into baking. So that's why scalable startups are a very different thing. I can't delve too much into the whole science of scalable startup. Google कर लो, बहुत कुछ पढ़ने को मिलेगा. What is a scalable startup? How do you build a scalable startup? What are MVPs? How to judge whether an idea is a scalable or not? All those things. The other question that somebody gave me was, what keeps you what keeps you after getting a secure job? What catapulted you into entrepreneurship? As I said, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur even when I was in college. So I always was looking for that. But I realized that I wanted to start my own thing. I had that knack to build something from scratch. And I still believe that I can be both more successful, both professionally, personally. And to be honest, I enjoy the freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur. I think that freedom is a very, very important aspect of being an entrepreneur. So these are some of the reasons why I started. And to be honest, I mean, I came across an idea that I thought could make it, and that's another positive reason why I started and I became an entrepreneur. So, what are the key ingredients of successful entrepreneurs? Having a network, very very important. You should be having a network of, it could be your friends, family, colleagues. All that will help. You should have some sort of a personal brand. कुछ खुद में होना चाहिए, which attracts others to you. Very important. You should have knowledge, at least in the area that you're planning to start. And if you don't have the knowledge, then you will have to have the commitment and the urge to go and get that knowledge. Exposure, perspective, another very important trait. A lot of entrepreneurs, they don't grow, they don't multiply their, they are unable to multiply their company, and they are unable to make it scale. They are unable to make it a multi-billion dollar business is also because they don't have the kind of exposure. So go out and get exposure, travel, work at different places, talk to different people. Nowadays, even going online and watching relevant YouTube videos and searching on the internet can give you a lot of exposure and perspective. Very, very important. The next two, capital. You should have money to invest. So capital is another very important element. You can raise capital. So raising capital is a science in itself. It's an art in itself. You can learn that. Or if you have money of your own, and if you don't have, then as I said, work for a couple of years. Thoda capital jama karo. Usko use karke start karo. Don't underestimate the value of having some capital in your bank account. So as I said, when I failed for the first time, one of the biggest things I realized was that one of the reasons why I failed is because I could not continue with my business idea after all funding sources died up. We could not raise funds at that time, and we had to shut down the company because we had no other way to survive. I mean, we were both in jobs. Job ruk jati to hamara sab ruk jata. And then I built my finances up in such a manner that I had a house in Bombay. I paid off my EMIs. I made sure that some basic necessities of my life were taken care of, and then I started my next venture. So capital is not necessarily to start the company. Capital is also to sustain your own life in a particular way. So capital is an important aspect there. And ideas come last. Ideas come last. It's there are dime a dozen ideas out there. Everybody has so many wonderful ideas, but very few people are able to convert those ideas into a business. It's very difficult to convert ideas into a business. So ideas are not that important. Yes, but they are important. But they are not that important. As I said, when I decided finally that I am ready to be an entrepreneur the second time, I did not necessarily have a fully formed idea. I had a couple of ideas which I tried out, and I realized that they were not going to work out. And I happened to meet my co-founder, and then I decided that okay, we'll work on his idea instead of mine. So ideas are important, but not that much. Until you start executing them. Execution is very, very important, and all the other points that I gave you will help you in execution, whether it's network, brand, knowledge, exposure, capital. All this will help you in execution. So that almost brings me to the end of what I wanted to say. Last slide to summarize. Education से क्या क्या मिलता है, experience से क्या क्या मिलता है. So education से you get network because you have a group of friends at least, कुछ नहीं तो at least उतना network आप बन जाता है. Personal brand, no, education can help you but doesn't make it basically. Knowledge, yes. Exposure, perspective, yes, to a certain extent. Capital, no. Ideas, no. Experience. If you have work experience of working somewhere, you definitely get a network of all your colleagues and your clients and your vendors and suppliers or whoever you speak to in your job. You may or may not get a personal brand. It takes a lot of effort to create a personal brand. Knowledge, again, you may or may not get. As I said, it's not a no, it's a question mark. Depends on which industry you work in, what kind of exposure. For example, Sachin Bansal एक साल Amazon काम करके इतना सीख गए कि Flipkart चालू कर सकते थे. So they did get some knowledge, I'm sure. Exposure, perspective, again, it depends on you. If you remain stuck in one department, one company, or one particular area, you may not get the perspective. But again, look at me. I mean, I worked with KPMG all 11 years. But then KPMG was a consulting firm. So consulting की वजह से मुझे वो exposure मिल गया. I traveled abroad also. I worked with different companies in India also. I traveled all over the country also. So again, you have to take those are subjective calls. We don't know whether what you will get. I'm going to leave you with. I'm going to skip some of these things for now. I'm going to leave you with 3 books that you should read if you want to be an entrepreneur. Lean Startup, very, very important book. It's like the Bible for entrepreneurs. And these two more books, which will be very interesting for you to learn. And I want to tell you 3 books that you should not believe in. Even though the last one is written by Peter Thiel, I will not recommend you believe what is written in there. Do not believe anything that Chetan Bhagat writes. Don't believe it. It's nice fiction. चिकलेट के लिए अच्छा है, पढ़ने के लिए, टाइम पास के लिए अच्छा है, but it's not worth believing. So with that, I come to the end of my session. I'm going to take up a few other questions that came up during the session. Somebody has asked that they had an idea about commercialization of fusion reactors and making it accessible to the masses, taking a lot of R&D and capital out of me. We can talk offline, but I think this is a very complex idea, and you will need to connect with people who are in this industry to understand whether it can be done. If yes, what are going to be the roadblocks? And you need to network a lot. I think this is one idea where networking is very, very important. Network with the right people, because fusion reactor sunte hi matlab nuclear technology ki baat kar rahe ho, it's quite complex. So make sure you network and you talk to the right people. This next company is, we have a company where we build industrial projects and engineering works. How do we maintain the portfolio of our company so that we can increase our reach? I think the internet has given everybody unlimited reach. If you can figure out ways, if you can figure out places on the internet where you can go and get exposure to the right people. It could be listing yourself on Alibaba.com or IndiaMart.com. It could be as simple as that, or it could be going on LinkedIn and networking again with the right kind of people, finding the right kind of people who are customers for your kind of products, and doing that. I I did consulting for a company based in Gujarat. They were a chemical company, very small chemical, family-driven company until about 10 years back, and then they networked and they became a supplier to one of the world's largest chemical brands, BASF. At that point of time, there was a specific chemical component that BASF used to make only and only in Germany. But Germany being Germany, it was very, very expensive. So these guys, they developed technology, they put in money from their own side, they did R&D, and they started developing that chemical in India. They started supplying BASF the same chemical from India for almost 1/3 the price that it would take them to do in Germany. So at that time, Germany and Sweden were 2 places. They started doing this in India, and because they could do it in such competitive pricing, over a period of time, this company was able to take over the entire supplier, able to become the sole supplier of this chemical to BASF globally. So BASF shut down their suppliers in Germany and Sweden and all these places, and started importing that chemical from India from this company 100%. So that was the kind of thing that these guys did. A Gujarat-based company which did this. So there are opportunities out there. You need to network with the right kind of people. How to maintain portfolio of companies according to industry standard, where there are standards available. ISO 9000 se leke 27001, 20000. There are so many things that are available. Talk to some of these companies and some of these standards, and do that. I mean, that's how you do. That's how you maintain a portfolio. As far as maintaining standards is concerned, all this information is available online for free. It's not too complex. But I will say again, I will give importance to the point of networking. Very, very important to network with the right people so that they give you the right advice. Be very clear. जिस industry में आप हो, उस industry के experts कौन है, उनसे network करके try to get information on that. How did you raise funding is a question asked to me here. We are currently bootstrapped, self-funded. And when I say bootstrapped, we put in some money of our own, and then we raised, then the money that we earn from our revenue is helping us sustain. That's what we've been doing until now. So we are a bootstrap company. We have not raised funds until now. But again, as I said, we are not yet at that stage. We are slowly hitting that stage where we'll start getting into becoming a scalable startup. At that point of time, we will obviously raise funds. What have you enjoyed most about starting your own company? A lot of things, I would say. There's not one thing to say about starting my own company. What have I enjoyed? I've enjoyed the whole experience end to end. There is no one thing that I can pick up. But yeah, I think I am proud of having built the software that is out there on tripdarwin.com. If that answers your question, maybe.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Sarabjit Singh, and I'm currently fifth semester student. So I want to ask you this question that we already have a lot of networking among our countries. Some of our clients include like Indian Army, TRF, Jamshedpur, and we basically design the scale models and all of the industrial equipment models of these companies. So presently what happened is from the last year the means companies ऑर्डर मतलब इम्पैक्ट पड़ गया सर ये चेन के ऊपर कम्युनिकेशन कहीं ना कहीं गैप आते जा रहा है धीरे धीरे तो इसके ऊपर आपका क्या कहना है
It's a very specific question. I think ऐसे इसका आंसर देना इतना स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नहीं है. I think why don't you connect with me offline? We can talk about it. I can help you give some ideas on what can be done. And maybe I can also connect you to some people जो इस problem का solution दे सकते हैं. But I think thank you for asking that question, because that gives me one more thought of what have you enjoyed most about starting your own company. ये जो problems आती है ना, और इन problems को solve करने में जो मजा आता है, वो मजा आपको कहीं और नहीं मिलेगा. Because these are unique problems. You will never encounter them if you were in a straight jacketed job. These are very unique problems जिनका कोई answer ही नहीं है. And when you struggle and you come up with answers to these questions on your own, through whatever means you may sometimes you have to experiment a little and figure out the answer. Sometimes you have to talk to people and figure out the answer. Sometimes you have to develop something completely new, innovate the way you have been doing work, and you have to give your answer. That is something that gives you immense amount of satisfaction, mental psychological satisfaction, of having achieved something, even if it may not have been necessarily a commercial success, but it gives you a very different high. And that's the high that keeps most entrepreneurs going.
thank you sir
One more question: what advice would you give someone who's trying to become an entrepreneur? Start as early as possible, and fail fast. There is this term called fail fast, which is start as early as possible, start trying out things, एंड देयरफॉर फेल फास्ट. फेल फास्ट का एक मतलब ये है कि जितनी जल्दी जल्दी आप आइडियाज पे इनोवेट करके फेल करते जाओगे, उतनी जल्दी सक्सेस के पास जाओगे. बिकॉज द मोर यू फेल, द क्लोजर यू आर टू सक्सेस. बिकॉज यू नो all the things that don't work out, and then one of them will work out. So the most important thing about all entrepreneurs is that they know a million things that did not work out for them, and therefore they know what worked out for them, and therefore fail fast. So start early. As I said, take inspiration from Jack Ma, who started many companies, and that's what my own journey has also been. I mean, I told you about two of my attempts, one which failed in 2008 and one which is now. But those are not all. इसके अलावा मैंने बहुत सारे ideas try किए. I've tried so many things. I've kept on doing so many iterations, and that gave me a lot of learnings. And वो learnings I'm implementing today. So this is the only advice. Start as early as you can. Get onto the field. मतलब सोचते मत रहो. Start का मतलब ये नहीं है कि बड़े बड़े ideas दिमाग में सोचते रहें और brainstorm करते रहें. That might give you an intellectual high, but it is not useful. Implement things on the ground. Go out in the field. Make money. When you make money, if you fail at making money or if you succeed at making money, that is what is going to help you. That's the most important thing. Okay, I think I've anyways exceeded the time by a long shot. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to me. And I think thank you, Meet, for for allowing me more time than what was allotted to me.
No, that's fine. I enjoyed listening to you as well.